The planet Epsilon Ridge had always been a place no one wanted to visit. The Galactic Council had declared it off-limits decades ago after strange readings were found deep beneath its cracked surface. It was said that ancient weapons from the old wars still slept there, waiting for someone foolish enough to wake them. Most ships stayed far away. But when the human exploration vessel Argus Dawn received a faint distress signal coming from the planet, Captain Laura Bennett made a choice she would soon never forget. The Argus Dawn was a small but sturdy ship. It had a crew of 25, made up of scientists, explorers, and engineers. Their mission was simple: respond to any human distress calls across nearby systems. When the signal from Epsilon Ridge appeared, Laura first thought it was a system glitch. No human colony had been registered there for years. But when the signal repeated, a low, broken pattern that sounded almost like a heartbeat, she knew it wasn't an error. Someone was alive down there. The landing was rough. The planet's atmosphere was unstable, filled with storm clouds and thick yellow dust. The ground trembled every few minutes, as if something large was breathing beneath the soil. The crew wore sealed suits and carried scanners as they stepped out onto the rocky plain. Dr. Ethan Cole, the team's linguist and signal expert, kept his eyes glued to the monitor. "The signal's close," he said quietly. 100 meters northeast. They moved carefully through the ruins of what once looked like a human outpost. Metal walls had been torn apart as if by claws. Scorch marks ran across the rocks. No bodies were found, just the remains of a camp, half buried in dust. Laura's voice was steady, but inside she felt unease. Something about the silence of the place felt wrong. There were no sounds of wind, no insects, no life at all. Then, a small movement caught her eye. Near a cracked generator, something shifted. Laura raised her light. The beam fell on a small figure lying in the dust. A boy, no older than 10. His clothes were torn, his face covered in dirt, but he was breathing. She ran to him and knelt beside him, her heart racing. "It's a child," she whispered. "He's human." The crew rushed over. They scanned his body, stable but dehydrated. His ID tag was still around his neck, though the print had faded. It read, "Evan Carter, missing from the colony ship Horizon Dawn, lost 3 years ago." Ethan stared at the tag in disbelief. The Horizon Dawn had vanished in deep space. The idea that one of its passengers had survived here was impossible. Laura lifted Evan gently and turned to head back to the ship, but then she froze. Her light caught something massive behind them. First, she thought it was a mountain, but mountains didn't have scales. The ground sloped up into what looked like a huge black ridge, covered in deep scars that glowed faintly blue. A tail stretched out from beneath it, thick as a starship hull. And then she saw it. The shape of a head, horns curving back like blades, eyes closed as if in sleep. Her breath caught. She didn't need a scanner to know what it was. Every record in the Galactic War archives described it. The beast that had burned entire fleets and turned planets into ash. The weapon that even the oldest species feared to name aloud. It was a dragon. Ethan's voice shook as he whispered, "Captain, that's not possible. The dragons were destroyed centuries ago. Every one of them." Laura couldn't answer. The creature was enormous, stretching across the valley like a dark god sleeping in the open. Heat shimmered around it, though no fire burned. Its wings were folded, the edges marked with deep scars. She saw the remains of burned metal scattered nearby. Alien ships, reduced to slag. Whatever this thing was, it had been here for a long time. Suddenly, the ground trembled. The boy in Laura's arms stirred and opened his eyes. They were a strange, bright green, glowing faintly even in the dim light. He looked at her, then turned his head toward the dragon. A faint smile crossed his lips. "He's not a monster," the boy whispered. "He's my friend." The crew froze. No one moved. The boy slipped from Laura's grasp and walked toward the dragon's head, his small steps echoing on the stone. "Evan, wait!" Laura called out, but he didn't stop. He reached the creature's massive snout and placed his tiny hand against its scales. The dragon's body shifted. Dust and rocks fell from its wings as its chest expanded. A deep, low sound filled the air, a rumble that wasn't quite a growl. Its eyes opened, burning with golden light. Every scanner on the crew's suits went wild. The power readings spiked beyond measure. Yet the dragon didn't attack. It simply looked down at the boy. Evan smiled again and pressed his forehead against the creature's nose. The dragon exhaled softly, releasing a warm gust of air that made the crew stumble back. For a moment, everything went still. The planet seemed to hold its breath. Above them, the Argus Dawn's orbiting sensors captured the moment and transmitted it across the network. Within minutes, hundreds of star systems received the feed. Alien watchers, human commanders, and distant worlds all saw the same impossible image. A human child hugging the most feared dragon in the galaxy. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy went silent. The moment the dragon opened its eyes, the air around the crew seemed to change. The dust on the ground rose as if caught in a silent storm. Every electronic device on their suits flickered and glitched. Captain Laura Bennett stood frozen, watching the impossible unfold before her. The dragon was awake, and it was looking directly at the boy named Evan. Dr. Ethan Cole's voice cracked through the comms. "Captain, energy readings are off the charts. This thing could level a city in seconds." His words came out fast and trembling. "If it moves..." Laura cut him off. "No one fires. Hold position." Her heart was pounding so hard she could barely think. But she knew that even one wrong move could mean the end of them all. The dragon blinked slowly, the movement sending a ripple through the air. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, deep and intelligent. When it exhaled, the ground steamed, though there was no fire. It was studying them, not as prey but as something else. Then its gaze settled again on Evan. The boy stood only a few steps from the creature's massive snout, completely unafraid. His small hand still rested against its warm scales. "It's okay," Evan said softly, almost like he was speaking to a friend. "They won't hurt you." Ethan whispered to Laura. "He's talking to it. He shouldn't be alive right now, but he's communicating." The dragon tilted its head, one eye narrowing slightly. The enormous creature gave a sound, low and deep, like a mountain shifting. It wasn't a roar. It was more like a question. The ground stopped trembling as it leaned closer to the boy, its breath washing over him in waves of heat. Evan smiled. "You don't need to be alone anymore." The scanners on Laura's wrist flared red for a moment, then flatlined. Every reading failed. Power from their suits dropped to emergency levels. "Pull back," she ordered. But none of her crew moved. They couldn't take their eyes off what was happening. The dragon slowly folded its wings, stretching them out across the valley. Its scales shimmered with faint light, like liquid fire trapped under armor. For a second, Laura thought it was preparing to attack. But instead, it lowered its head until its chin rested on the ground beside Evan. The boy reached up and touched its face again. Ethan swallowed hard. "This can't be real. That thing's supposed to be extinct. It destroyed fleets during the Old War. Thousands died because of one dragon like that." Laura spoke quietly. "And now it's letting a child touch it." From above, the Argus Dawn's drone recorded everything. The signal spread through the ship's data link, and within minutes, the live feed was sent to nearby relay stations. Across the galaxy, command centers, research outposts, and alien monitoring hubs all received the same transmission. Billions of beings watched in silence as the dragon, the one creature every species feared, bowed its head to a human child. In the galactic capital of Ventora, screens flickered to life inside the council chamber. Dozens of alien ambassadors stared in disbelief. Commander Tarek of the Varn Dominion leaned forward, his claws tapping the desk. "That's impossible," he hissed. "The Vorther-class dragons were wiped out. None survived." An elder from the IRI syndicate spoke softly. "And yet there it stands, obeying a human." Back on the planet, the ground began to pulse faintly beneath the crew's boots. Blue lines of light spread across the dragon's scales, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. The creature's wounds, scars from long battles, started to heal before their eyes. The air shimmered with invisible energy. It wasn't radiation, it was something else. Something alive. Ethan tried to scan again, but his equipment overloaded. Captain, whatever this is, it's not just energy. It's resonating with him. With the boy. Laura glanced at Evan, who stood in complete calm. His eyes glowed faintly, the same color as the dragon's veins. You're seeing this too? She asked quietly. I think... Ethan's voice trembled. I think they're linked. Then, without warning, the dragon raised its head high and released a deep, echoing roar that rolled through the mountains like thunder. The sound was so powerful it knocked several crew members to the ground. But it wasn't a roar of rage. It was something older, something sad. The dragon looked up toward the clouds, and for a heartbeat, the storm parted. A beam of light fell across the boy and the creature, and the air grew still again. Evan turned toward Laura and smiled. He says thank you. Laura blinked. He spoke to you? Evan nodded. Not with words. I can feel it. He's been asleep for a very long time. He thought everyone was gone. Before anyone could respond, the ship's comms flared with static. The voice of First Officer Nate Harper broke through. Captain, we're getting a surge in long-range signals. Every major faction just started monitoring our frequency. We're live across half the galaxy. Laura felt her stomach drop. You're saying the whole galaxy just saw this? Yes, ma'am. Every world with a data relay. Silence filled the valley again. The dragon's golden eyes turned toward the sky as if sensing the unseen watchers. Then it slowly lowered its head once more, closing its eyes beside the boy. The glowing light in its body faded to a soft pulse. Laura stood still, unable to find words. Around her, the crew whispered in disbelief. Somewhere, far beyond their little world, millions of beings were staring at the same image. A child and a dragon side by side. And across that vast, silent galaxy, fear began to change into something else. Wonder. The crew of the Argus Dawn stood in the shadow of something beyond understanding. The dragon had returned to rest beside the boy, and the air around them felt thick, alive, like the planet itself was listening. Captain Laura Bennett kept her eyes on the creature, afraid that even blinking might break the strange peace that had settled over the valley. Dr. Ethan Cole was the first to move. He stepped forward, his scanner flickering with dying light. Captain, he said quietly, I think I can hear something. He turned up the sound levels, and a strange noise filled the comms. A pattern of low tones, soft and rhythmic. It wasn't speech, not exactly. It was more like a song made of vibrations. The sound wasn't coming from the dragon. It was coming from the boy. Evan stood still, eyes half closed, whispering softly. The tones that came out of his mouth were like nothing human. Each note echoed with a faint shimmer in the air. And with every sound he made, the glowing veins on the dragon's body pulsed in perfect rhythm. The crew watched in awe as the connection between them deepened. Ethan's voice trembled. That's not random. Those are harmonic frequencies. He glanced up at Laura. It's a language, an ancient one. Laura frowned. A language? You're saying he's speaking to it? Ethan nodded slowly. Yes, but not through words like ours. It's vibration-based communication, the same method used by the old genetic engineers to control living weapons during the Galactic War. He looked back at the boy, disbelief written on his face. No one alive should know it. That language was erased from every database in the galaxy. The dragon shifted slightly, its golden eyes blinking with slow calm. Evan continued to hum softly, his voice mixing with the faint wind. The tones grew stronger, and the ground beneath them started to vibrate in response. The planet itself seemed to hum back. Ethan's scanners began to flash warning signs again, frequencies beyond human tolerance. Ethan, shut it off, Laura ordered. You'll fry your sensors. He did, but his eyes stayed on the boy. Captain, he's controlling it. He's controlling the dragon. Laura couldn't believe it. The child was barely 10 years old, and yet the creature, something that once destroyed whole fleets, was obeying him. Evan turned to look at her. He doesn't want to fight anymore, he said in a quiet voice. He just wants to go home. Home? Laura asked. Where is home for something like that? The boy looked at the sky. He says he was made by people long ago. Humans. Ethan stared. That's impossible. Evan shook his head. He remembers. He says humans made him to protect, not to kill. But others used him for war. He touched the dragon's scales again, and a deep sadness filled the air. He didn't understand what he was doing. The crew stood in silence. No one knew what to say. The thought that dragons had once been made by humans, and that a child could speak their language, was beyond belief. Ethan's hands shook as he typed rapidly on his datapad, recording everything. Captain, if this is true, it changes everything we know about the war. Above them, the Argus Dawn continued broadcasting. Across the galaxy, the feed reached thousands of ships, colonies, and stations. Scientists, soldiers, and governments all watched the same unbelievable sight. A human child communicating with what was thought to be an extinct monster. Some saw hope, others saw danger. Far away in the Galactic Council Hall on Ventura, the ambassadors argued loudly. "This cannot be real," shouted one of the reptilian counselors. "That creature wiped out 6 of our worlds." An elder from the Varn Dominion slammed a clawed hand on the table. "If humans have found a way to control those things, then the entire balance of power is broken." But one quiet voice among them, the gray-skinned envoy from the Kale Union, said calmly, "Maybe the humans didn't control it. Maybe they remembered what we all forgot. How to speak to them." Back on Epsilon Ridge, the storm clouds were fading. The boy's song grew softer, like a lullaby. The dragon lowered its head again, curling its massive body around him protectively. For the first time, Laura noticed faint markings on the creature's scales. Symbols, maybe writing, etched into its hide. They looked human. Ethan whispered, "Captain, those markings. They're English letters. Old ones. I can make out some of it." Laura stepped closer. "What does it say?" He traced one line carefully. "It says, Guardian Protocol, Project Emberwing." Laura's heart stopped for a second. That means this wasn't an alien weapon. It was ours. The boy looked up, hearing their words. "He told me the same thing," Evan said softly. "He said he was made to protect humans, but when they disappeared, he went to sleep." He smiled faintly. "Now he's awake again." Before anyone could answer, the ship's comms came alive with static and then a message from orbit. Nate Harper's voice was sharp with fear. "Captain, we've got incoming. Multiple ships, non-human signatures. They're locking on to our position." Laura's mind snapped into command mode. "Everyone back to the ship. Now!" Evan turned to the dragon, placing a hand on its side. "It's okay," he whispered. "They don't understand yet." The dragon's eyes glowed again, brighter this time. It raised its head, looking toward the sky. As the sound of distant engines filled the air, the boy continued to hum softly. The same ancient tones rolled across the valley like waves of light. The dragon's scales shimmered in response, and for the first time, Laura understood what she was witnessing. This wasn't just a connection between a child and a beast. It was the awakening of something far older, something humanity had forgotten. The boy who spoke the forbidden tongue had just reminded the galaxy of its oldest secret. The message from the Argus Dawn spread faster than anyone could stop it. Every major species, every intelligence network, and every military command in the galaxy had seen the same impossible footage. A human child speaking to a dragon thought to be extinct. The creature had obeyed him. It had not attacked. It had listened. That was enough to shake the foundations of everything the galaxy believed about humans and about fear. On the capital world of Ventura, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The chamber was a circular hall lined with marble-like stone, lit by blue energy streams that pulsed with tension. Representatives from dozens of species filled the air with shouts and accusations. News broadcasts played on silent screens above them. The image of the child standing beside the massive dragon repeated again and again. Commander Tarek of the Varn Dominion, a tall reptilian being with silver scales, slammed his clawed fist on the table. "We cannot allow this to continue. The humans have awakened one of the ancient weapons. This is a direct violation of the Galactic War Accord. Across from him, the small, insect-like diplomat from the Rin Coalition clicked in frustration. Are you certain the humans did it? Perhaps the creature simply woke up. The child appeared lost. He cannot be a soldier. Tarek's eyes narrowed. It does not matter. That boy is human. The beast obeyed him. That means control. And if they can control one, they can control all. A murmur swept through the chamber. The thought was terrifying. The dragons had once turned whole fleets to dust. If humanity had truly rediscovered the means to command them, no power in the galaxy would stand against Earth. High Chancellor Vura of the IRI Syndicate raised her voice. We need confirmation before we make threats. Our science division is still studying the data. But if the humans truly have bonded with a Vorther-class weapon, then the era of balance is over. She turned to her aides. Send word to all defense fleets. Quietly. While the council argued on the Argus Dawn, Captain Laura Bennett was facing her own storm. The radar showed multiple ships entering orbit, unidentified, but not human. They're watching us, she muttered, waiting to see what we do. First Officer Nate Harper's voice was tight. We're getting encrypted transmissions from Earth Command. Priority level red. Laura nodded. Patch it through. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Admiral Cole Stanton. His expression was cold and serious. Captain Bennett, you are ordered to secure the child and the creature. Do not engage unless attacked. The Council will panic, but this must not fall into their hands. Protect them at all costs. Laura hesitated. Admiral, with respect, what are we dealing with? Is this dragon human-made? Stanton's image wavered slightly. Old records suggest the Vorther class were designed by pre-collapse human civilizations. The boy's ability to speak to it means those codes still exist inside human DNA. That makes him invaluable. Bring him home. The transmission cut off before Laura could respond. She turned to Dr. Ethan Cole. You heard him. You think the boy's connection is genetic? Ethan nodded slowly. It makes sense. The dragons were organic constructs, part biology, part energy. They responded to resonance tones keyed to human neural patterns. If Evan somehow inherited the right frequencies, it explains everything. Laura rubbed her forehead. So the galaxy just found out humanity still has the key to the deadliest weapons ever made. Ethan looked grim. Yes, and they won't take it calmly. Far above, on Ventura, the debate reached its breaking point. Commander Tarek stood and pointed toward the hologram showing Earth's symbol. I say we take preemptive action. Destroy the human vessel before it can return to their territory. If they truly have awakened one of those beasts, waiting will doom us all. Several ambassadors shouted in agreement. Others objected, fearing war. High Chancellor Vura raised her voice, cutting through the noise. Enough. We will not act blindly. We will send an observation fleet to Epsilon Ridge to monitor the situation. Any attempt by the humans to weaponize the creature will be considered an act of war. Outside the chamber, military channels went live. Across the galaxy, fleets began to move. Ships with strange insignias left their docks, heading toward the quiet world where the child and the dragon waited. Back on Epsilon Ridge, Laura and her team prepared for the worst. We're not alone anymore, Nate said, watching the sky turn darker. Multiple ships entering low orbit. They're not broadcasting any friendly signals. Laura looked at Evan, who sat calmly near the dragon's head. The boy was tracing lines on the scales, humming softly. They're afraid, he said without looking up. They think we'll hurt them. Laura crouched beside him. Are you afraid, Evan? He shook his head. No. He says he'll protect us if they try. The dragon's golden eyes opened again, glowing brighter as distant thunder rolled overhead. Ethan's scanners flickered alive once more. Captain, he whispered. The dragon's energy core just spiked again. It's reacting to the incoming ships. Laura straightened, her voice steady. Then let's hope they don't give it a reason to wake up angry. Above them, the first alien ships broke through the clouds. The Galactic Council had made its choice. The galaxy was preparing for war. The night on Epsilon Ridge burned with silent tension. Above the storm clouds, alien warships drifted into position, their silver hulls glinting in the light of the dying sun. The Argus Dawn's crew watched the sky from the rocky valley, knowing they were surrounded. Captain Laura Bennett stood on the ridge's edge, eyes fixed upward, her hand resting on her sidearm. She knew that any wrong move could start a war. First Officer Nate Harper monitored the comms from a portable console. "We're being hailed, Captain. Multiple signals, different languages. None of them sound friendly." Laura didn't look away from the horizon. "Translate the main channel." A harsh voice filled the air. It belonged to Commander Tarek of the Varn Dominion. "Human vessel, you are in possession of a Class 7 biological weapon. Stand down immediately. You will surrender the creature and the child for containment." Laura's jaw tightened. "This is Captain Laura Bennett of the exploration ship Argus Dawn. The child is under human protection. The creature is not a weapon. It hasn't harmed anyone." Tarek's voice came back sharp. "Not yet, but it will. If you refuse, we will consider your ship hostile." Before Laura could answer, the ground trembled. A deep sound rolled through the valley, a low growl that came from the dragon itself. Vorther lifted its head, eyes glowing with gold fire. It looked up toward the ships as if it could sense the threat in the skies. Its wings flexed, and the air itself seemed to bend around its body. Ethan Cole, standing near his scanners, whispered, "Captain, its energy readings are climbing fast. It's preparing to defend the boy." Laura's voice was calm but firm. "Tell it to stay down, Evan. We don't want this to turn into a bloodbath." Evan turned to the dragon and placed his small hand on its scales. "They're scared," he said softly. "He doesn't want to hurt them, but if they attack, he'll fight back." Above, lights flashed across the clouds, alien ships arming their plasma cannons. The sky thundered with the hum of weapons charging. Then, in a burst of light, the first shot came down. It struck the ground near the dragon, sending a wave of heat and dust through the valley. The Argus Dawn shook violently. Laura shouted, "Shields up! Get behind cover!" The crew scrambled as more blasts rained down, but none hit their mark. Each beam of light curved away at the last second, as if something unseen was bending their path. Ethan looked up, eyes wide. "Captain, the dragon's generating a field. It's deflecting the attacks." Vorther stood tall now, wings spreading wide enough to cast a shadow over the entire ridge. The scales shimmered like molten metal. The creature opened its mouth, and instead of fire, a wave of blue energy rippled outward. It wasn't an explosion, it was a pulse. The sky flashed, and every alien ship froze midair. Nate stared at his console. "Their systems are down. Power levels dropping everywhere." He disabled them without destroying them. Laura could hardly breathe. The dragon had just neutralized a fleet without killing anyone. "He's not fighting," she said softly. "He's showing restraint." Evan stepped forward, eyes glowing faintly. "He remembers what humans taught him. Protect, not destroy." From the orbiting alien command ship, panic spread through the channels. "Our fleet systems are failing. Power drains across all vessels," shouted one officer. Commander Tarek gritted his teeth. "Impossible. That weapon is learning. Pull back." But before the alien ships could retreat, Vorther raised its head and released another pulse, this one gentler. The ship's engines reignited one by one, but their weapons stayed dead. It was as if the dragon was telling them, "Leave in peace, and you will live." Laura watched the skies clear, awe spreading across her face. "He spared them." Ethan looked at her. "Captain, this changes everything." The entire galaxy just saw mercy from a creature built for war. Far above, live feeds transmitted the event in real time. Billions of beings across the galaxy saw what happened, the most feared weapon in history refusing to kill. On worlds where people had grown up with stories of dragons burning civilizations, silence filled every home. Back on the ridge, the dust began to settle. Evan sat down beside Vorther's massive claw. He's tired, the boy said quietly. That took a lot of his strength. Laura approached slowly, her voice soft. Evan, you did good. You kept him calm. You may have just stopped a war. Evan looked up at her with tired eyes. They'll come back. More of them. He says they won't believe it was peace. Laura sighed, knowing the boy was right. Somewhere in the distance, the glow of more ships flickered in the night sky, reinforcements responding to the failed assault. Then we'll be ready, Laura said, her tone steady. We'll protect him, no matter what it takes. As she spoke, Vorther lowered his massive head, curling slightly around the humans like a living shield. His golden eyes dimmed, and for a moment, the valley was quiet again. The stars shone faintly through the thinning storm clouds, reflecting off his scales like rivers of light. Across the galaxy, the image was already spreading faster than any fleet could travel. A human child, a dragon, and a crew that refused to surrender. The story of Epsilon Ridge had just become the spark that would change the galaxy forever. In the aftermath of the Battle of Epsilon Ridge, silence hung across the stars. For the first time in centuries, no fleet fired a single shot. No planet sent threats. The entire galaxy had seen what happened. The feared dragon sparing its enemies, the human child commanding it not through violence, but compassion. That image had shaken every world. On board the Argus Dawn, the crew worked through the night. Smoke still rose from damaged panels, and the ground around them was scarred from near misses, but the ship still stood. Captain Laura Bennett sat at the command console, her face lit by the dim blue glow of the main screen. The council had gone quiet. No new messages, no demands, only silence. Nate Harper approached her with a data pad. We're picking up thousands of transmissions, Captain. Civilian networks, independent channels. Everyone's talking about the boy. They're calling him the Dragon Speaker. Laura gave a tired smile. A child speaks, and the galaxy finally listens. Not what I expected. Ethan Cole entered from the medbay, his lab coat streaked with soot. Evan's stable, exhausted, but unharmed. The dragon's pulse must have drained his energy too. I've never seen a bond like this. His brainwaves are synchronized with the creature's. Laura turned to the screen again. Earth Command wants answers, and so does everyone else. If we don't speak first, they'll twist the story into something dangerous. She stood and walked toward the comms console. Open a channel to all frequencies. Secure but wide. I want every major system to hear this. Nate hesitated. Captain, that means going public. The council will see it as defiance. Laura nodded. Then let them. If they're going to hunt us, I'd rather they know the truth first. Moments later, the Argus Dawn's insignia flickered across thousands of screens across the galaxy. From core worlds to border colonies, beings of every kind turned to listen as the human captain appeared before them. This is Captain Laura Bennett of the Earth ship Argus Dawn, she began, her voice steady. 3 days ago, our exploration mission encountered an ancient creature on Epsilon Ridge. The galaxy once called it a dragon. You called it a weapon. But we have learned that it is alive, it can feel, and it can choose. It chose peace. Her image was clear and simple, framed by the quiet hum of the ship behind her. We did not bring war to your skies. You fired first. And still, it showed mercy. The boy you saw, his name is Evan. He is human, yes, but more importantly, he reminded us of what we all forget. Power means nothing if you cannot show restraint. Across alien command centers, her words caused unease. Some turned off their screens. Others leaned closer. No one interrupted. We don't want a war, Laura continued. We want understanding. Humanity has changed since the old wars you fear. We're explorers now. But if you force our hand, remember this, when the dragon looked into your fleets, it chose not to destroy you. That was its gift. Don't make it regret that choice. She ended the broadcast. The message spread like wildfire. Within hours, countless discussions filled the networks. Some species saw it as a threat, others as a miracle. The galaxy had never heard a human speak like that, with conviction, but without arrogance. In the quiet that followed, Ethan joined Laura on the bridge. You just told the entire galaxy that humans can control the deadliest weapon ever made. Laura shook her head. No. I told them we can understand it. That's not the same thing. Ethan smiled faintly. Let's hope they know the difference. Meanwhile, deep under the Argus Dawn's hull, Evan sat with Vorther in the containment bay. The dragon's chest rose and fell slowly, the sound like thunder in sleep. Evan traced one claw with his fingers and whispered, "They didn't like what she said." The dragon's eyes opened halfway, golden light glowing faintly. "They fear what they do not control." The creature's deep voice echoed in his mind. "But you are different, little one. You ask to understand, not to command." Evan nodded. "Will they come again?" "Yes," Vorther rumbled. "Fear does not fade easily, but you have lit a spark. Even fear can be changed by hope." Outside, among the stars, fleets began to move again, but not all of them were hostile. Some came not with weapons but with messages. Small ships from neutral systems sent signals of peace, requesting contact with Earth. A few dared to say what others only whispered. Perhaps the humans had not returned as conquerors, but as something new. On the bridge, Laura watched as new signals appeared on the map, hundreds of them. Nate looked up, stunned. "They're coming from across the sectors. People want to talk." Laura exhaled slowly. "Then we'll listen." Far above, the galaxy that once feared humanity now waited to hear what it would say next. And on Epsilon Ridge, beneath the stars, the dragon slept, guarded by the smallest human who had ever changed the course of history. The message from Captain Laura Bennett spread through the stars like wildfire, but not everyone welcomed it. In the dark corners of the galaxy, old fears began to stir again. For many, the sight of a dragon bending to a human's voice was not a sign of peace. It was a warning of power. And some powers refused to live in a galaxy where humanity could rise again. On the shadowed moon of Kareth Prime, fleets that had once fought the human expansion wars gathered once more. Old warlords, exiled admirals, and ambitious leaders whispered in secret halls. They called themselves the Coalition of Balance, but their real goal was simple: to destroy the dragon and the child before humanity could claim them. In a cold chamber filled with flickering holograms, Commander Tarek stood before the gathered council of rebels. His scales glimmered under the light. "We cannot allow them to rewrite history," he said, his voice sharp and commanding. "The humans destroyed 1,000 worlds before. Now they return with a weapon older than the stars, and they call it peace. We know better." An insectoid representative hissed. "And what of the child? He is but one boy." Tarek's eyes narrowed. "He is the key. The creature obeys him alone. Remove the boy, and the dragon falls silent." A murmur spread through the gathered officers. Plans were already forming. They would strike not at Epsilon Ridge, but at Earth itself. Humanity's home would be their leverage. Far away on the Argus Dawn, Captain Bennett watched the skies with growing unease. Messages of peace continued to arrive, but so did darker signals, encrypted warnings from deep space relays. "Movement detected near the Terran frontier," Nate reported. "Unknown ships, no transponders. Could be pirates. Could be worse." Ethan Cole leaned over his console. "It's them, isn't it? The ones who can't stand the idea of peace." Laura nodded grimly. "They're coming for us. Or for Earth. Either way, we can't stay here much longer." Down in the containment bay, Evan sat beside the dragon, who was still recovering from the energy surge. The great creature's eyes opened slowly as the boy spoke softly. "They're scared again, Vorther. I can feel it. They think we'll hurt them." Vorther's deep voice echoed in Evan's mind. "Fear is a chain, little one. Those who wear it cannot see beyond it. But you must not wear it too." Evan frowned. "But what if they attack?" The dragon's golden eyes glowed faintly. "Then we defend. But not with anger. With purpose." Hours later, a distress signal reached them, from Earth Command. The transmission was shaky, the voice urgent. "This is Admiral Cole Stanton. Multiple fleets approaching from beyond the Kareth Belt. They're not responding to hails. Defensive protocols are active. We may be facing a coordinated attack. Laura froze. They're going after Earth. Ethan slammed his hand on the console. They'll blame us for this. They think the dragon's ours to command. Laura took a deep breath. Prepare the Argus Dawn for departure. We're going home. The ship lifted from the ridge, engines glowing in the night. Below them, Vorther spread his wings and rose into the air beside them, his enormous form casting a shadow across the landscape. For a brief moment, the sight was beautiful. A dragon flying alongside a human ship, their movements synchronized like old companions. Back on Earth, panic rippled through the population as reports of approaching fleets filled every channel. Civilian ships fled toward safe zones. The United Earth Defense Network scrambled its forces, but they were outnumbered. Across the world, people watched the sky and wondered if the wars of old had returned. When the Argus Dawn dropped out of hyperspace near Earth, the crew gasped. Dozens of alien ships surrounded the planet, forming a blockade. And yet none had fired yet. They were waiting. "Captain," Nate said quietly. "They're broadcasting a single message. It's from Commander Tarek." Laura's face hardened. "Put it through." Tarek's hologram appeared on the bridge, tall and composed. "Captain Bennett, you've caused enough chaos. Turn over the child and the creature. Humanity has no right to control what it does not understand. Refuse, and Earth burns." Laura stared him down. "You saw what happened at Epsilon Ridge. He spared your fleet. You call that control? That was mercy." Tarek sneered. "Mercy is weakness, and weakness dies." Before Laura could respond, a deep roar shook the comm system. Outside, Vorther appeared, descending through the clouds like a comet of gold fire. The alien fleets shifted in formation, preparing to fire, but the dragon's presence made even the bravest pilots hesitate. Evan's voice came softly over the ship's intercom. "He says they don't understand yet, but they will." Laura whispered to herself. "Then let's help them understand." She turned to Nate. "Ready the broadcast array. We'll show them what real strength looks like." Far across the galaxy, the shadows gathered, but so did the light. As the Argus Dawn faced the largest fleet humanity had seen in generations, the boy and the dragon prepared to stand together again. The storm over Earth had begun, and this time the galaxy was watching. The sky above Earth blazed with the light of hundreds of ships. Alien fleets surrounded the planet in silent menace, their weapons charged, their intentions clear. Humanity stood on the edge of annihilation once again. But this time, something ancient stood between Earth and its destruction. The Argus Dawn floated above the clouds, its hull scarred but steady. Inside the bridge, Captain Laura Bennett watched the tactical map fill with red signals. Each one was an enemy ship. Nate Harper turned to her, voice low and tense. "They're in range, Captain. If they open fire, Earth's defenses won't hold for long." Laura didn't answer immediately. Her gaze moved to the viewing window, where the massive shadow of Vorther drifted beside them. His wings stretched wide, eyes burning with golden light. "He knows what's coming," she said softly. Ethan Cole entered, holding a datapad. "I've been studying his energy pattern. Every time he connects with Evan, the readings spike. If that continues, it could overload both of them." Laura turned sharply. "What happens if it does?" Ethan hesitated. "Then Vorther may burn himself out completely. And if that happens, Evan will die with him." Laura's stomach twisted. "We're not letting that happen." Outside, the fleet began to move. The alien ships formed into attack lines. Commander Tarek's voice thundered over the comms, his fury barely contained. "This is your last warning, humans. Hand over the creature and the child, or witness the end of your world." Laura stepped closer to the console. "You already saw what mercy looks like, Commander. You called it weakness. Let's see if you understand it now." She signaled the broadcast. Across the alien fleet, human transmission cut into every channel. The image of Evan appeared, small, calm, his eyes glowing faintly gold. Vorther loomed behind him, silent but powerful. Evan spoke quietly, his voice carrying a strange strength. "Please don't fight." He doesn't want to hurt anyone. He remembers your worlds. He remembers your people. You called him a weapon, but he was never made to destroy. He was made to protect. In dozens of command ships, officers paused. Some lowered their weapons. Others stared in disbelief. But Tarek's fleet didn't stop. He shouted to his gunners, "Fire!" Beams of plasma lit up the dark sky. They shot toward the Argus Dawn and the dragon with blinding speed. But before they could strike, Vorther moved. With one mighty beat of his wings, he soared upward. His scales shone like molten suns, and from his chest came a deep, thunderous sound that echoed across the planet. The air vibrated. The sea below rippled. Then, in a blinding flash, he released a surge of golden energy. The wave spread in all directions, sweeping through the enemy fleets. It wasn't destruction, it was light. Every ship it touched froze midair, weapons powering down, engines silencing. For a moment, the entire sky was filled with golden fire. Evan fell to his knees, eyes glowing brighter than ever. His voice broke through the roar. "Stop, please. He says you are forgiven." Then came silence. The golden light faded, leaving only drifting ships and stunned crews. Every weapon was disabled, every fleet powerless. No one had died. On the Argus Dawn, alarms fell quiet. Laura stared in awe. "He spared them again," she whispered. Ethan checked his console, his hands shaking. "Captain, that pulse reached half the sector. Every ship out there just went dark. He shut down the entire invasion without a single casualty." But then his expression changed. "Evan's vitals are dropping." Laura rushed to the containment bay. Evan lay motionless, his small hand still resting on Vorther's scale. The dragon's golden eyes flickered weakly. "He gave too much," Ethan said quietly. "They're linked. If one fades..." Laura knelt beside the boy. "Evan, listen to me. You did it. You saved us. Stay with us." Vorther's deep voice rumbled, weaker now. "He is the bridge between what was and what can be. He carries the light humans left behind." The dragon lowered his head, touching Evan gently. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, golden light began to rise from the dragon's chest and flow into the boy. Evan gasped, his eyes opening with faint light. Vorther's glow dimmed further. "You live, little one. That is my promise." "Vorther!" Evan cried, but the dragon only smiled. A slow, ancient gesture, and lifted his wings once more. His body shimmered, turning into streaks of light that spiraled into the sky. Within seconds, he was gone, dissolved into the starlight he once commanded. The Argus Dawn's bridge was silent. Earth's night sky glowed faintly gold for hours afterward. Across the world, people looked up, not in fear, but in awe. Later, as the crew of the Argus Dawn prepared to land, Laura stood beside Evan on the viewing deck. He stared out at the stars. "He said he'll return," the boy whispered. "When the galaxy learns to listen, he'll come back." Laura put a hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll make sure they're ready for him." In the following weeks, word of what happened spread across every known system. The war fleets withdrew. The council dissolved in shame. Worlds that had once feared humanity now sent messages of peace. And among them all, one story passed from mouth to mouth. The story of a human child who tamed the most feared dragon in the galaxy with kindness. And far beyond the edge of known space, in the quiet between the stars, a golden shimmer moved, watching, waiting. The galaxy was at peace, for now. But the promise of the dragon still echoed in every corner of the universe. The light of humanity is not in its weapons, but in its heart.